The Sanctuary of School by Lynda is a really sort of touching and somewhat heartbreaking piece about the terror and the instability and the awfulness that can confront a child who is from an unstable home, and sort of how, strangely enough, school can actually end up being a place of safety and security and comfort for kids in this situation, which is much opposed to the way many children view school, which is as sort of a prison or an unfortunate place that they just sort of have to endure. This piece, The Sanctuary of School, does a good job of setting up a narrative, sort of a story that it wants you to follow along with, and that sort of idea of the story can slowly but surely reveal to you some sort of argument or a case that it is making. One thing that's notable is just how this piece starts, right? I was 7 years old the first time I snuck out of the house in the dark, like right from the very beginning. Like there's drama, there's, intrigue, there's a little bit of sense of conflict right from the very start. I was 7 years old the first time I snuck out of the house in the dark. And you're sort of like, oh, wait, what's going to happen, right? That sentence right off the bat gets us into the story, into the narration. It says, the morning I snuck out, I woke up filled with a panic about needing to get to school. The sun wasn't quite up yet, but my anxiety was so fierce that I just got dressed, walked quietly across the kitchen, and let myself out the back door. I didn't know why I was walking to school in the dark. I didn't think about it. All I knew was a feeling of panic. And this is where you're start to really get to understand a little bit of what the deal is with this character, why she has anxiety, and the fact is that her home life is not good. So in her home life, which is very rocky and unstable and involves lots of random family members coming to stay, and they all seem troubled, and parents yelling at each other and all of that, that school, a place where people care about her and where she feels safe, actually ends up being a tremendous place. It says, in a perfect world, my absence at home would not have gone unnoticed. We were children with the sound turned off. And I love this example here. We were children with the sound turned off, which is she's using to discuss the fact that her parents, don't really even seem to notice that she's present. What makes this description interesting is how it mirrors a description that happened earlier in the story, in which it says, at night when everyone was asleep, we lay on our pillows watching the TV with the sound off. So it sort of creates this connection between watching the television with the sound off and her herself being a child with the sound off. As the story progresses, we, are at the school, people start to recognize her. Oh, hey, little girl, what are you there doing at the school so early? And she gets to see all of her teachers arrive and everybody show up. And then finally her teacher gets there and she bursts into tears. And it says, it's only thinking about it now, 28 years later, that I realized I was crying from relief. I was with my teacher, and in a while I was going to sit at my desk with my crayons and pencils and books and classmates all around me, and for the next 6 hours I was going to enjoy a thoroughly secure, warm, and stable world. It was a world I absolutely relied on. Without it, I don't know where I would have gone that morning. So that's really showing and driving home this point of the idea of school as a sanctuary. And she uses that to discuss and connect it to argument, making a case to say, we all know that a good education system saves lives, but the people of this country are still told that cutting the budget for public schools is necessary, that poor salaries for teachers are all we can manage, and that art, music, and all creative activities must be the first to go when times are lean. So she's making a case here. She's saying, like, we're told over and over again that cutting budgets for schools is totally acceptable, that getting rid of arts and programs like that is totally acceptable, when in fact art and painting was one of the things that her teacher used to have the greatest effect with her. These types of things seem like things that we can get rid of until you consider the children who maybe necessarily don't have a better place to go except being at school. The piece ends with this really sort of heartbreaking thing where the child is drawing, and it says, it was the same picture I always drew, a sun in the corner of a blue sky over a nice house with flowers all around it, which of course is juxtaposed tremendously against her own home life, in which the sun doesn't seem to shine much and there's trouble all around. But of course, thankfully for her, she has school.